August. This is something that Jeffrey Brewer wanted to do to make us more efficient. So we have a new governance rolling on July 1st. It'll be rolled on our website as well as out to our investigators and community. It's really an internal process by which we're going to be reviewing and governing our research. No longer will the International Board of Directors be approving resolutions. There is a new group put in place. It's called the Research Executive Committee. This is the workhorse of the research department. This group is made up of board members and lay volunteers, and they will be on a monthly basis reviewing our research strategy, what we're spending our money on, and also the commitments that we make on a monthly basis of who we're funding. So you can see this, it's going to be called the Research Executive Committee. This will be the workhorse of the approval process within the organization. We are going to continue to go out to review for everything we do. Of course, that's the right thing to do. So we are not getting rid of peer review as some people thought we were. I'm not sure where that came from, but I want to make sure that no one in this room believes we don't believe in outside external review. We will continue to do that. The Lay Review Committee will be part of that review, and anything that's funded above $500,000, they will be as patient advocates as part of that review that we do when we review large funding opportunities. So this is our new governance structure. It looks quite different than it does right now, but this will be effective as of July 1st. And this is the scientific team. I report in to Jeffrey Brewer. We have strategic alliances or partnering that reports into each therapeutic area. This is a complete team of PhD and MD scientists that work each area. I have program area leaders for each and every initiative. So what you saw in the priority research areas are led by a specific scientist. And they are listed here on this organizational chart. So just to come back, I will have 22 PhD, MD scientists in the department. And then, of course, we have a very large, we have 13 administrators that help us administer, do all the background work that needs to be done in order to commit that kind of research funding. So there's another 13 staff members that support the PhD scientists. Translating. I want to spend a few minutes on what does it mean to be doing translational research. You're going to hear Jeffrey speak about translational research over and over again. It's really about taking what you learned on the bench, what you learned in the laboratory, and getting it to the patient. That's translational research. You got to get in early. You got to have line of sight that you're going to do that, because when you do discovery research, you have to look at it with a lens. Will that translate to a patient? So we call that applied science, and that's how we're going to be operating when we fund now. Is our lens has to be on, can we take that discovery and can we translate it to the clinic? This is the typical pipeline. So just so you get used to seeing this, because these are some of the slides that the research department's using. There's what we call discovery research. This is what we call research translation, where that's when you do the basic biology piece. Then you move into clinical research. And this is, you'll commonly hear us, this is the development side of research. This is where you are absolutely driving to the patient. You take what you learned in the research and you move it into the clinic and you find out, is it safe and is it effective? And then, of course, the patient translation is what we call health outcomes. This is where you've got to be sure your physicians are going to adopt what you're doing in the therapy or the device. You have to be sure that patients are educated to use these new therapies and actually are willing to use them and have access to them. And then, of course, we work reimbursement as well out of the government relations area. So these are the three areas of translational research, all with a point of view that we have to have outcome to the patient. Real quickly, how do we gate through translational research? The research translation, the exploratory research, and what we call preclinical research. These are the areas where you're really laying down the underlying biology. that's needed to move into the clinic. Typically, this is where you hear us saying we're identifying a new target. It's just a substance in the body that may be turned on or turned off and give a result, such as like produce insulin. So could we find a target that actually could take another cell and produce insulin? Possibly, that's a target. This is where we start identifying biomarkers that can be used to tell us if we're advancing the science. And you'll commonly hear us say, this is when we do proof of principle. Take the science, make sure it works in an animal model, in the test tube, whatever it takes. This is what we call proof of principle finding. So that's what we do in the research translational area. Once we move into the clinic, we're really looking at, did we really discover something? Can we put it in man? Is it safe? And does it work? That's what you're doing in clinical research. There are typically 3 phases in clinical research. I will tell you that Jeffrey and I have talked extensively about this. The space of which JDRF is going to play is going to be in phase 1 and phase 2. We call those the learn phases of clinical research. This is where you're really finding out, is the device or the therapy safe, and will it work? Once you get into phase 3, which is listed here, these really have to be done with pharmaceutics because they're extremely expensive. There are sometimes thousands of patients that have to be in those trials, and I really don't think that's the space JDRF needs to play in. I think we need to play in the earlier place, what's called the learn phase, and leave the real strong development when we're going to do confirm and finding out if that therapy is going to move to the patient. It's got to be done by people that are skilled in the art. And so JDRF will focus on phase 1 and phase 2 funding. This is also where we would engage biomarkers. I think it's critically important that JDRF identify biomarkers that give us those reads quicker. Whether they be biomarkers that tell us that we move that new device into the clinic, that it's going to be safe, so there are biomarkers of safety, or whether it's going to work, so efficacy. Are there biomarkers that tell us that if we have a new glucose modulating agent, that in fact it's going to work in a patient, and a biomarker will tell us quickly and fast, does it work or does it not? So this is where we'll be investing in biomarkers. And basically biomarkers are really to accelerate your progress and your decision making. And then I talked about patient translation, and this is really the end game. And I strongly believe in this. If you don't bring your physicians along when you're bringing a new therapy such as an artificial pancreas forward, they'll never use it. And if your physicians won't use it, the patient will never get it. So we are committed to make sure that if the artificial pancreas is going to be realized, that we have to be educating our physicians now, or they'll never use it in the field. And I think there's good examples of that internationally in England, where nobody uses pumps. Why? Because the physicians don't really believe in pumps, so their uptake is like nothing. We can't let that happen to the artificial pancreas. So making sure that we get clinician adoption in anything we do is going to be critically important, or else all that money we've invested will be wasted. So patient education and clinician adoption will be part of our plan as we move forward. So this all seems simple, and you may think that this is going to be easy. We're going to leverage, we're going to collaborate, we're going to put our own money behind it. We've got a strategy, we're focused, we're prioritized. But the bottom line is, it takes time. And I wanted to put this up here because don't be disillusioned. You've been looking for the cure for a really long time, and you might get tired. But the bottom line is, it takes time. And although I just in 5 minutes went through the path, if you look up here, you can see best case scenario. If I had the basic biology in my hand right now, today, and I said, I know this is the cure, the best case scenario, and everything goes right, the best case scenario is 7 years for you to ever realize it. And I will tell you that actually it's more like 14 years. So it takes time to develop these therapies. It's not going to be overnight. But I think we have a couple shots on goal where we can realize quicker than that. So I wanted to put the timeline up just to set your expectations of finding the cure. If we get on the right path, it's going to take us time to get there. So what are the ones that we're really going to drive and we're really going to accelerate? I told you this year we're going to make a very strong strategic move on encapsulation. We're committed to it. Jeffrey is committed to it. We're going to drive there. And I put a strong team. I just hired a senior director who's come